Hello everyone, welcome to the ProverbialMinds podcast. It is your host again, Samuel Oladeji, and with me here is Pastor Darren Scruggs with the Scruggs. Today we are going to be talking about mindfulness and meditation. Pastor Darren is one of the pastors at Hosanna Lutheran Church, Mankato, and he has a lot of years of experience in both youth ministry and then adult ministry, in leading groups and advising people, and he has a lot of experience in mindfulness and meditation. As someone who has led groups and ministries in the church, you should know that he definitely must have practiced mindfulness and meditation a lot. So in today's episode, if you're ever confused on what mindfulness means or what meditation means, and you don't even know what it means or how to put that in your life or how to practice it, or you're confused when people say mindfulness and meditation, you're like, I don't know what the heck is that. You're at the right spot. We will tell you all you need to know about mindfulness and meditation, how to practice it, how to get started, and how that can affect your life. So don't forget to stay tuned to the end and join us on the ride on mindfulness and meditation with Pastor Darren Scruggs. The theme of our podcast is the Proverbs of leadership and success. We are building a community of great leaders and successful individuals. So if you are that person that want to work on personal development, want to improve your leadership skills, and want to gain a turnaround in your life in terms of your goals and everything, you are in the right spot. So do not forget to subscribe, to hit the notification button, and to like our videos, as well as to comment. And if you're returning, thank you so much for being consistent with us and being loyal to us so far. We appreciate your effort and your commitment towards our success, because our goal is to influence as many lives out there, over 1 million people, and we cannot do that without your help. So you coming back here always and liking our videos, and for you, the new guy or new person subscribing to our videos, you help the YouTube algorithm know that our contents are being needed and appreciated by the people, which allows them to share it to more people, and that helps us to achieve our goal of transforming lives. So again, do not forget to subscribe, to hit the notification button, and to like our videos. You can also follow us on Instagram. We are on Instagram. It's ProverbialMinds podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can find us there as well. So today we're going to be talking about the secret to leadership and personal success, harnessing the power of mindfulness and meditation, and how that can have a phenomenal effect on transforming your life and helping you to develop yourself personally as well as on the leadership level. As I had said before, with me is Pastor Darren Scruggs with the Swags. Pastor Darren is one of the pastors in the Hosanna Lutheran Church, Mankato, and he has led a lot of small groups and large groups with both adults and youths, and it's more on the disciple life, on leading people in the journey with Christ and help people to know God more. And so you can as well know that someone who does that has a lot of experience in practicing mindfulness and meditation. He has a lot of leadership experience over the years in ministry. So how does mindfulness and meditation come in correlation with leadership and personal success? First of all, meditation is the time, at least from my definition, that you spend personally with yourself, listening to your inner voice and inner self. And when you do that, you are going through a process of self-reflection, of keeping track of your life, of your goals. And as we talked about in the past episodes about the power of discipline in leadership and the power of discipline in personal development, taking time to meditate can definitely affect your ability to stay track on your goal and your personal development journey. Mindfulness is the process of being present. So Pastor Darren here is going to delve more into that with us today. So Pastor Darren, could you tell us how you got started in your mindfulness and meditation journey?
Well, first I would have to say that I have a lot of experience in failure. That's the first thing. And trying to be a leader without practicing mindfulness, what I would say is really being present with yourself is nearly impossible. So it really came from a history of failure. And when I understood that what I was doing wasn't working, then I started to pursue what is it about me. And that's actually what it started was I started to ask myself questions, what is I had not done before, which is actually a good practice of mindfulness.
Yep.
Why am I acting the way that I am? And then over a period of time, I learned from other leaders, from people who were the people that I admired, to be honest, to try to understand how they got to be people who are non-anxious presence people in the room. And they are the ones who started to share their secrets with me. And then I studied some people that are nationally known as well. So really very simple things that you could probably get from just about any psychological world about mindfulness is really helpful to be present. A lot of it has to do with noticing what's happening in the room around you so that you can ground yourself. Placing your feet on the ground like this is a good place so you feel like what's beneath you is present and foundational. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is one that's often used and I find helpful, which is find 5 things in the room that you can see, 4 things in the room that you can hear, 3 things in the room that you can touch, 2 things that you could smell, and 1 that you could taste. And that actually helps you to be present in the room, which gets you prepared to be able to actually get your mind into thinking about what's happening in your current state. So what I would also do then is I would, as a pastor, as a believer, is I would not just think about what I think, but I would also ask God to help me understand why I'm thinking the things that I'm thinking. And this is kind of a daily routine to begin my day. And any time that I am anxious or have an upsetting emotion, I would stop and do the same thing.
Great. So now, if I capture you well, that is on mindfulness, practicing mindfulness over time. And what you just covered there now is being able to practice mindfulness phenomenally affects your ability to become a great leader, in the sense that mindfulness makes you present. And when you're present, you can be able to observe where you are, the room, paying attention to the things that are there, seeing the feet practice that you just did, and the smell, everything around the room. And that makes you become attentive to the people, to the surroundings of yourself, and that way you can even get to know what is it that is going on in the room, the people, how to better serve them, how to better know their problem and identify them. Does that capture that well?
Yes, I think it prepares you for the next step, which is to help you act like yourself, remain relational with the people around you.
Yep.
To be able to return to joy, this is what I would say, return to a state of we're glad to be together if there's an upsetting time, and then to help you to endure all situations. So it's really to set you up and prepare you to be relational. One other thing that's helpful when you are trying to practice mindfulness is after you have gotten a sense of I am present in the room is gratitude. And that would be to think of something that you're grateful for, particularly about the people that are around you or what has happened in your day will actually help you to become more connected to the people that are around you. Also a part of mindfulness.
That's awesome. So take us through your meditation journey. What is meditation like to you? When they talk about meditation, what do you think about it? What picture comes to your mind when you hear the topic meditation?
I can't hear the word meditation without thinking of God and my relationship with God. It isn't a solitary thing for me. Meditation is me sharing my thoughts with God and then me listening for God's response to me. That might seem like a strange thing for some people to hear, like hearing his voice, but it's over time, just like I've gotten to know your voice and how you have this English accent kind of blended in. It's the same thing that you start to hear what God would have to say. And this is the practice of meditation for me. It's just me sharing my voice with God and God then sharing his voice with me listening to what he says and accepting it as truth.
That's powerful. Now, there are different culture of what people see as meditation. So, for example, in the Stoic philosophy, in different religion, different people have their view of what meditation is. But I relate with you very well in the topic of meditation. And I see meditation too, aside from mindfulness, as a way of calming myself, of being connected to God, of being aware of what is going on around my life and where my journey is going to, or what is going on, the circumstances around me. And that, again, the communication with God helps me to say, okay, what is God saying about this thing? And sometimes I do that. I go to the Bible, I study the Bible, and then the funny thing about that is sometimes when I go to practice meditation, I open the Bible, and it turns out that whatever the Bible says that day actually is speaking to me. It's magical sometimes. I just open the Bible to a particular place, or sometimes the voice can just tell me, open to Matthew chapter 5, or open to Matthew chapter 15, or thereabout, and I open it and I read Matthew chapter 5 or Matthew chapter 15, and it's literally talking exactly about what I'm facing and that confusion that is going through my mind. And I'm like, wow, this is God actually talking to me today. And when I sit down, sometimes I can imagine myself. I just start hearing this voice talking to me, and I just become calm again and feel like, okay, I know what is going on. I know what is coming ahead, and I feel like I'm prepared now about it.
Yeah, and to me, that's if we believe that our God loves us, and we do, then we would believe that He wants to speak words to us that bring us peace. So that this is the primary impetus. The primary reason why we would actually do this is because we trust that God will actually come through, and He will actually bring us the peace that we need. So it is those two things: mindfulness, getting yourself prepared to be present in the room with Him, and with the people that are around you, because you can do this practice of meditation with other people, which is different than a lot of other religions, which is get rid of everybody else. This is a way to connect with each other. And then you're ready to hear, to be able to speak, and to be able to listen, and then to trust that God will speak and say the things that will bring peace.
That's awesome. And that also brings me back to the idea of how mindfulness and meditation, I know we've talked about this, we've talked basically about this at the beginning of how it makes you, it affects you as a leader. But could you go through the process of now, when maybe you have a meeting going on, or you're trying to go into an event, or maybe bringing people together, how do you then harness that mindfulness and meditation to prepare for your meeting, or to prepare maybe with meeting with the people that you lead, for example, the groups that you have meeting with, and then that you discuss about with them? So how do you implement that?
I always begin my day. Always meaning that's my intention. But I always begin my day spending time in meditation. I would call it a manual moment. So that I'm prepared for what He has to say to me, and then I carry that through every meeting of the day. I expect that word that He gives me carries me through every part of the day. And to give you an example, on Monday, when I was listening for His voice, after I'd shared the things that I was concerned about for the day, His word for me was, "You're working too hard." And I know that I was saying, I wish this was easier, and He said, "You're working too hard. If you don't want to work so hard, then let me do it." And so for each of the things that I did that day, the interactions I had with people in my personal life and also in ministry, it was get out of the way, let God do what He's doing, so that you're not working so hard.
That's awesome. Many times in life, we humans always want to feel like we got everything under control. We always want to feel like it's within our power to control everything that we do. We always want to have the answer right now. We always want to be able to figure everything out. We want to know the beginning to the end, have it planned out, and make it go through our way. And sometimes when it doesn't go our way, we get frustrated. And when we're supposed to sit back and even take a glance at, okay, what am I doing wrong? We go other. We say, okay, maybe I'm not working out enough. We had more and more things to our schedule. We had more and more ways at which we can, work ourselves out the more. And maybe that might give us the answer. Eventually, that leads to burnout. We get frustrated, get anxious. Sometimes we even feel like the world is coming crashing. And it's all crazy how that works. But you see how meditation and mindfulness sometimes can help you take a break from the world, and because it's usually a time of solitude. You stay on your own. It make you take a break from the world and look at everything that's going on, and you're wondering, okay, what am I doing wrong? And what could I do right? Why is this going this way? Maybe this is out of my control. Because, like you said, there was a sermon you preached one time. Every time we are always go, 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 go. There is no pause. And oftentimes we lose track of our lives, even ourselves. We are doing things, we don't even know why we're doing it. And we look back later and we're like, oh boy, I have actually go opposite the way I wanted to go. And now I'm totally, if for example, maybe I'm on a trip to Dakota, but because I'm just going, I don't even know, I didn't check the map, I didn't take time to see if I'm still on track to where I'm going. Now I find myself in New York. And sometimes that happens. But this is where meditation and mindfulness comes in. You know, taking you away from the distractions of the world, taking you away from that busyness and that constant going, taking you out to actually think and say, okay, am I actually in the right place? Am I where God wants me to be? Am I actually going through that vision, that idea, that dream that He has showed me? Or I'm already consumed by the distraction of the world? I'm already consumed by what maybe I hear in the news media today, or maybe what someone tells me to try, and I didn't even bother to check if that is actually in alignment with my calling. But because I'm so desperate to get a result, I went to it, and now I'm totally derailed. So meditation and mindfulness really is a powerful tool to address stress management, to keep you in track with whatever goal you've set for yourself, or whatever calling that God has given to you. Because everybody on earth has a purpose, and we have a vision that we are supposed to fulfill. And if you are not spending time with God, with your Creator, if you're not taking that time in solitude to just observe yourself and to know what is going on in your life, you lose touch with that calling, with that vision, because your brain is crowded with so many things that you have almost even lost the main point why you're doing it. And it's an example of when they say, when you pass one word to a group of people, and let's say we have a line of like 15 people, this person here, Tolu, at the end of the day, you go to the end, whatever name the person here is totally different.
Yep.
Again, when you don't pause to question the process and see if it's actually in the right way, when you don't pause to actually see if you are the same, if you're in track with what you started with. And every time I've learned that one of the ways to stay on track is meditation, and to constantly ask God, am I in the right place? Am I going through the right step? And I've communicated some of this with you sometimes about questioning myself, okay, am I even where am I supposed to be? Or am I just frustrated? Or am I just going? These questions come to me many times, and meditation and mindfulness has always got me back on track. So what are some examples of like leaders that you can say, embody that mindfulness and meditation that, you've used to learn or to teach yourself over the years?
Yeah, I'm probably not the kind of person that you would say, who do you watch on a podcast? Sorry, man.
Yep.
I am more receptive of the people that God has put in my life. And I have been blessed with several mentors who went out of their way. And one is a former pastor, retired pastor, who's now with Jesus. And he was the one who taught me how to live simply. He's the one who taught me how to be human. That's the way I would say it. And there are other people who are on a church staff that I've been part of who have been really good at teaching me the same things. But probably one of the best is a gentleman named Greg Nelson, who was a former counselor, who really helped me understand mindfulness. And one of the best things I think that he would say is, if you are always in the future in your head and always in the past, that you'll never be in the present. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is to be present, because then we can see what God is doing or calling us to. If we're in the future, we're ahead of Him, and if we're in the past, we're behind Him. We want to be present with Him and with the people that He's put in our lives. And the word that he taught me that I think that is the most important is notice. We would all do so much better if we could just notice the things that are around us. And when we're in the future and in the past, it's hard to notice what's happening right now. So mostly these are the people that God is just, it feels like I did not go and seek them out, that God has placed them in my life.
It's powerful that you said in the past. Could you elaborate more on being in that past?
Yeah, this is probably in the sense of failure, in the sense of the way that we, in our heads, will condemn ourselves of how we have not been enough, have done enough. And that will always drag you back to the circumstances that you were in instead of being in the present, which is where God has gotten you. And if you're always in those places, then you're not reaping the benefit of what God is doing here now.
That's amazing. That reminds me of a story in the Bible. And this was a story, I don't know if you've come across it, but I'll try to remember, probably not accurately like it was there, but it was about, is probably God and the disciples, or God or Jesus and the disciples, or Jesus and the Pharisees. And Jesus brought this quote, and he made this analogy of this quote. He said, many times we hold on to the old things, to the old cloth. He said, can you imagine, an old cloth is torn and you got a new material to patch that cloth. Is it better for you to actually get a new cloth and forget about that old cloth, or get a new material to patch where that cloth is torn? And he made another example. He said, if you have a wine vine, if you pour a wine in that old wine vine, how do you think the vine is going to behave compared to when you pour the wine in a new vine? Many times we hold on to the past, and we, as a result, don't make way for the new. And that usually affects our life. Sometimes can make us miss blessings, make us miss opportunity, make us miss some things that God even wants us to pay attention for too. That could even be an answer to our prayers that we are praying for sometimes. So that is amazing that you brought out that fact. An example of someone that I would say taught me the importance of mindfulness. I'm a deep thinker. I spend a lot of time in meditation, sometimes outside meditation, thinking deeply about the reason why things happen and the reason why the world operates the way it is. And this has been as a result of how I got to know God. I got to know God when I was in my military high school, and I got into the habit of reading the Bible since I was 12 years old. And one of the way that I actually got to know God very much well, apart from the encounter I had with him where I told him I was hungry, I know that there's God. You know, my mom used to tell me to pray, but I never had a personal relationship with God. I never really knew that, okay, I just knew that there was somebody up there that I prayed to. But I never really had this personal relationship with him, or, you know, knowing him that much. And so when I began to know God after my encounter with him, where I told him I was hungry, and like 5 minutes later, somebody called me and gave me food. And if you look at the incident, if you look at my military high school, whenever a senior calls you, just know you're done. They either will beat the crazy out of you, or send you message and frustrate crap out of your life. And so when this guy called me, I thought he was calling me for the same thing. I was already becoming, I almost started cursing him out in my mind. Like, I'm like, man, dude, I'm hungry. You don't want to do this to me right now. But he had the full bowl of food with him. And then when I meant to meet him, he said, take, it's for you. I'm like, what? This is something he had not touched. He had not taken a single spoon out of that food. And he just gave it to me. And he said, take everything. I'm like, are you for real? He said, yes, I'm for real. Take it. The whole food, the whole bowl. And I'm like, wow. To an other person, that might seem like, yeah, a random experience. But to me, it was deep. Because 5 minutes ago, I just prayed in my mind out of desperation and brokenness. And God, I'm hungry. I've looked for my guardian. I can't find him. I'm broke. I don't have money. I don't have anything. And how am I going to eat? And somebody 5 minutes later, somebody that on a normal day would have called me to beat the crap out of me, or, you know, send me a message, gave me food. I'm like, wow. So ever since that time, I'm like, I want to know this God. And that was when I started spending time quietly in reading the Bible, and I was like 12 years old then. And so when I read the Bible, because of the way I'm wired, curiosity, analytical, always thinking deeply about things and curious, it must make sense to me. And so I was reading the Bible, and I began to observe the world. I observed many things. The place I started from was the book of Exodus. I reread the book of Exodus over and over and over again. And then I went back to the book of Genesis. I mostly based on the Old Testament then, before starting moving into the New Testament. So I started looking at the things in the Bible, and I began to see that the realities of the world It's the same. There was no different from the things I saw from the Bible. And there was this man I usually talk to then in the school. He's a worker in the dining center. I'll go meet this man. I'm like, man, there's nothing new in this world, bro. Everything is in the Bible. Like, it's there. There's nothing new. Like King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. We just lose track of it. And so that was when I became more interested. I was very curious to learn more about this Bible. And I would always read and read and read and read every time. And I would go back to study history, study ancient times, study patterns and cycles of the world and everything. And it always blows my mind up to see that all these things are always in the Bible. There is either similar experience or similar theme or similar philosophy in the Bible that explains, and that was the turning point for me. That was when I realized that indeed God is real and indeed the Bible is real, because there is evidence to everything that is in this Bible. There is evidence throughout history, it's there. Throughout the current time, it's there. And some other religions sometimes that claim to have another God, some of the things they believe that they claim as their discipline, I see in the Bible. Sometimes I'd be like, okay, maybe it's just a misorientation. For example, one I studied a lot was the Stoic philosophies, and I realized I compared that to the life of Jesus. And somebody that they usually make example of is Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. And I think he reigned for like 19 years, something around that 175 AD or so. And Marcus Aurelius was somebody that followed, I think he was the ones of the founding fathers of Stoicism, which is being calm, being present, meditation, integrity, treating people right, responding rather than reacting, consider how your actions affect people. And during the times of Marcus Aurelius was one of the most peaceful time in the time of Rome. And I think they said it was the last emperor of Rome that had a peaceful tenure. After him, it was all this disaster and chaos and stuff. So looking into all of those things made me understand the power of mindfulness, because I'm someone who always want to develop myself all the time, learn and more, become much more better. So that is my own root of mindfulness. And the people that I would say I always look up to compare myself is Jesus. Many times I ask myself, what would Jesus do? If Jesus was in this situation, what would he do? And Marcus Aurelius too is someone I used to read from history time. I read about his stories and stuff and listen to some stuff about his meditations. And then I look at these two people, I'm like, okay, what would Jesus do if it's Jesus? How will he react? Will he just bash this person, or will he treat the person with love? And sometimes I struggle because I am a tough love kind of person. And so sometimes instead of being gentle, I am strict sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, how would Jesus attend the situation? So that is my own root of mindfulness and meditation, and it has been transformational in my life.
I know nothing about Stoicism, so I'm glad that you could explain all that. If I want to know what Jesus would do, I'll ask him.
Yep.
That's where I believe that if we have a God who has given us the Bible, and all these things are written so that we may believe,
yep,
then we also trust that he is present with us, and it is for our benefit that we learn how to be present with him.
Yep.
This is the difference between other religions' meditation, is to get away from everything. And what we would use meditation for is to connect more with God and connect more with one another. So if I'm in a situation where I'm not sure how I should treat this person and I feel overwhelmed, the first thing is that I would get myself to be present in the room. Then I can say, what do you want me to do right now, Lord? And I listen. So even in the midst of upsetting emotions, we can be mindful and meditate. And this helps us to act like ourselves in all situations.
Yep. So now, how would you recommend somebody to start their journey towards meditation and mindfulness? How would you recommend it?
Have them talk to Samuel. I would say, ask God to point out the person who is the person that you should listen to. He always hears those kinds of prayers, and he will make sure that you have the person. If you're somebody who's like, I'm nervous about meeting people, you can research mindfulness and the general principles of mindfulness. And across the board, most of those principles are the same.
Yeah.
So even from secular thought are the same. It is the connection with you and God, that is the difference maker. That's what allows you to have a sense of peace that cannot be understood.
Yep. And even in addition to that too, that stoicism thing now that I used to talk about, many times when I look at some things, some theories about that stoicism, it usually take me back sometimes to sit down and say, okay, God, what do I do? And it helps me, like you say, sometimes ask God, who should you follow? What should you learn? And I notice that whenever I read about this stoicism thing, it always pushes me back to God, always pushes me back to the Bible, always pushes me back to the life of Jesus. And what would Jesus do in this situation? How would God address this situation? So guys, that is mindfulness and meditation with Pastor Darren Scruggs with the Swags. I hope you enjoyed this episode, because I really did enjoy the conversation with Pastor Darren. He's a very good friend of mine and he's a mentor. And we've known each other for a long time now, and I love always being around him and talking to him sometimes, even though I may be crazy at times, but
all the time.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's also important is keep your notebook open. That's a good phrase. It's probably a little old. Keep your notebook open. You're always going to learn from somebody else.
Yep.
And I have learned so much from Samuel, especially about endurance, not quitting, not giving up, and putting your faith in God. And I've appreciated that about you. That's helped me to grow as a person. So thank you.
That's great. That's great. I'm happy I'm able to influence your life. And I would say you have influenced my life in a lot of ways. When I came to America, there are many things that I did not know. And if you notice, there was a conversation I had with you one time. This was many years ago. This was when you still had that white truck at the time. And then I told you, I said, this is my view about, asking for help when you need help. And I always feel like, oh, you got to be able to, man up and do everything. And then you told me one thing. You said a wise man take advantage of every opportunity that he have, and you can do it by yourself. And I realized that actually sometimes made me make way for God to help me, rather than trying to figure it out myself and blocking God from helping me.
Sometimes. We're pretty hard-headed though.
Yeah, but that has really, really shaped my life. So guys, today we talked about the power of mindfulness and meditation, and how that influenced your life in leadership success and personal success. We talked about how being present affects your ability to relationally to relate with people, to be present, to keep track of what is going on in your life, as well as to be present with God, to listen to God, to hear from God, and to connect that all with your calling and your purpose. Like we talked about past episode on the power of vision. One of the way you can actually ensure that you're staying track to that vision and that purpose that God has given you is through mindfulness and meditation. Because if you're going to fulfill that vision that God has put in your heart, you constantly need to ask Him for direction. And the way you can do that is mindfulness and meditation. If you allow yourself to be covered and endowed and choked up by the distractions of the world, you're going to lose touch with Him, and you're going to lose track, and that will derail you. You just find yourself, like I said, you're trying to go to Dakota, but you find yourself in New York. That's going to be a bad experience. So I want you today to take some form of the wise word of Pastor Darren Scruggs and learn about mindfulness and meditation. And like you said, ask God to show you the right people that you can learn from, and build that journey of mindfulness and meditation. And I hope that you are blessed by this episode today, and this will make all the difference in transforming your life. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about the power of human resilience, and we're going to be inviting another guest. His name is Michael, and Michael has about 30 plus years in the industry in leadership, in policies and government making policies and all that stuff. And he has a lot of qualifications. I can list them all. He's going to list them by himself when he comes in the next episode. But one thing that stood out to me the most was his involvement with Navy SEAL. He's a coach for the Navy SEAL Fit for about 15 years. So he has a lot share with us about human resilience, endurance. I know Pastor Darren said he learned endurance and resilience from me, but I think that guy's a pro. I don't think I know much about that one. So stay tuned for the next one, guys. And if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. We need your support to reach many lives out there. So click the subscribe button, notification button, so you can be notified when we post our next episode. And also, do not forget to share and comment. Give us your feedback. Your feedback helps us to improve and know how much we can serve you. Follow us on Instagram at Proverbial Minds. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts at Proverbial Minds, as well as on Spotify. If you have any inquiry or testimonial or feedback, anything you want to share, don't forget to. Our email is proverbialminds@gmail.com. It is your host again, Samuel Oladeji. On to the next one. Peace out.